Welcome. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody feeling after karaoke night? Shall we all sing a song? Patrick actually has a podcast on Broadway shows, so we could all sing a Broadway song to welcome him. Just kidding. Oh yeah, didn't book that. Well, Patrick is a very good friend of mine. I met him through the 48. He has competed in the Washington, D.C. 48-hour film project 16 times. He has won twice. He's won a special genre competition years ago when we did the politics or comedy genres. And then this year, he has won D.C. in the regular 48 with The Crown Must Go On. He is a professor teaching screenwriting at Catholic University. He's also taught at American University. And he is going to be sharing with you his tips and information about how characters inform your plot. Patrick.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much, and thank you guys all for coming. This is great. I had no idea who was going to show up. This is fantastic. As Mark said, yes, I'm a professor, writing professor, visual literacy professor. I'm also a playwright and screenwriter in DC, and through a combination of education and practical experience, I sort of have become disillusioned with the screenwriting books that we all read and that we all buy. And so when Mark asked me to talk about something getting from 48 into something with a little bit more time on your hands and how to develop story, I wanted to talk about this basic idea that I've had for a very long time, which is that characters essentially are plot. Because if you look for advice on, there will be, by the way, no Scrooge McDuck slides. I wonder if you're waiting for that. And no shots of people staring at water. If you look for advice on screenwriting, you'll hear about story. Everything's about story. Story. The big book's called Story, the Robert McKee book. And everybody always talks about story as being the thing you have to get. You have to have your story. You have to know your story. You have to be able to pitch your story. The problem is that really there are only 36 stories. I don't know if this is something you guys have heard, but this is true. It was discovered in the 18th century by this guy. His name is Carlo Gozzi, and he wrote down 36 different dramatic situations, and that was it. And it was such a well-known thing that he did that Sturm und Drang writers like Schiller and Goethe tried to find more stories, and they searched for the mythical 37th story, and they could never find it. And eventually it was put into a book in 1895 by Georges Polti called The 36 Dramatic Situations. You can find this as a PDF on YouTube for free, or on Google for free. It's a very, very handy thing. So there's only 36 stories, and here they are. These are the only kind of stories you can write. Obviously, some of the more modern examples weren't in the 19th century text, like Star Trek II. But this is basically, if you take any kind of story, you can break it down to this level, that there are only 36 stories. But if there are only 36 stories and 175 movies get released in America every day or something like that, how are they doing it? How are they staying memorable? What are the movies that we love? And I think, to me, the big thing to remember is that we don't remember stories very much. You know, stories are fine, but what we actually remember are great lines of dialogue, great scenes, and characters. Characters are the things we cling on to. Characters are the things that we love. Characters are the things we remember and we, try to emulate or try not to emulate, as the case may be. And I think that if you focus when you're writing on creating memorable and interesting characters and putting them together, your story will simply develop itself. There will simply be no other thing that can happen because, title of the lecture. So, I am going to be using a few of the screenwriting texts sort of as baseline to sort of use their own information against them almost, to show that this is going. So we're going to use this chart, which I do actually love. If you guys have never read Save the Cat, you can Google this chart. This is free online also, which basically outlines, Blake Snyder's idea of how a movie is structured. And my argument is basically we can take the same exact chart and replace these story beats with character beats. And to talk about that for my text today, we're going to be using 4 movies, 2 classics and 2 that came out last year. And so we have Casablanca, The Apartment, Barbie, and The Holdovers. Just a quick show of hands, who has seen Casablanca? Great. The Apartment? Fewer. Barbie? Great. And the holdovers? Fewer again. Okay, good. So I'm going to go kind of a quick overview for them to let you know what they're about, just in case you haven't actually seen them. Because to me, it is really the characters of these movies, not the plots, that have made them. I mean, the top two are classics of American cinema, and I think these two, obviously both nominated for Best Picture this year, are going to be movies that people revisit over and over and over again. They're going to survive the test of time because the way the characters are created, designed, and then most importantly, pitted against each other is what actually propels the movie forward. So if you don't know, a real quick rundown of each movie. The Holdovers, down here in the corner, directed by Alexander Payne, written by David Hemmingson, although that is currently under litigation by the WGA. Yeah, this was written before that happened. Came out last year. It takes place in the Boston area of the United States and is about a group of boys at a school who have to stay at their boarding school over the Christmas holiday, and the teacher who has to mind them, and the head chef who serves them food. Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, screenplay by Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, based on the toy line by Mattel, as the WGA made them say. Also came out last year and is about one Barbie doll's journey from Barbie Land to the real world, along with Ken, to find out why she's having thoughts about death. The Apartment, directed by Billy Wilder and written by Wilder and his partner I.A.L. Diamond, came out in 1960 and is about an accounting man played by Jack Lemmon named Baxter, had a huge insurance firm in New York, who lets senior executives use his apartment for their extramarital affairs so he can get ahead at work. And Casablanca, directed by Michael Curtiz, screenplay by Julius Epstein, Philip Epstein, and Howard Koch, based on the play Everybody Comes to Rick's. Came out in 1942 and is about Richard Blaine, who runs a cafe in Morocco, which has become a way station for refugees trying to flee the Nazis and make it to Lisbon. Exactly. So that's the basic idea. And to start with, you know, the basic idea of putting these things together is, first I want to start with the biggest mistake I think that everybody makes, which is very well outlined here by Truby in his book, Anatomy of a Story, that the single biggest mistake writers make when creating characters is that they think of the hero and their characters as individuals. You really want to be creating these characters as a group. Characters are not, you don't start with, because what we all know, what's the first thing you're supposed to start with when you write a screenplay? What do they tell you in the books? You start with the hero, right? That's where you're supposed to begin. You're supposed to start with the hero. Ever since somebody figured out that George Lucas read this book before he wrote Star Wars, we've been talking about the hero's journey. Have you guys been talking about the hero's journey? Have you seen this diagram a couple times? Sometimes they put neat graphics with it. That one has a lot of words, right? We hear about the hero's journey all the time. So I'll meet them where they stand, and we'll start with the hero. How do you create your hero? And the first question you have to ask is, who is your hero? And that's a really, really big question. Right now, I'm going to stop using the word hero. We're going to eliminate the word hero. I don't like the word hero because the hero implies good guy. First of all, it implies guy, and second of all, it implies good guy. And not all of your heroes need to be good guys. In fact, I think it might be more interesting if they're not. So we're going to start using the word protagonist. So who is your protagonist? Well, the first questions I like to ask when creating a protagonist are these two, is what does your protagonist want and what does your protagonist need? This is the most basic way to design a character to me, is what do they want and what do they need? And if you watch most of these films, you will see that there is a scene that comes up very early in the movie where the protagonist states what they want or states what they need. Let's see if I can get this will play.
Rick, there's going to be some excitement here tonight. We're going to make an arrest in your cafe.
Not again?
Oh, this is no ordinary arrest. A murderer, no less. If you're thinking of warning him, don't put yourself out. He cannot possibly escape.
I'd stick my neck out for nobody.
A wise foreign policy.
Tell me, Baxter, just what is it that makes you so popular?
I don't know.
Think.
Would you mind repeating the question?
I know I'm stereotypical Barbie and therefore don't form conjectures concerning the causality of adjacent unfolding events, but some things have been happening that might be related.
I'm just trying to instill basic academic discipline. That's my job, isn't it yours?
It was. Until I became headmaster and saw that it's not so simple to keep the damn school afloat. I begged you to give the kid a C-.
There are instructors here who will do that. I am not one of them.
So very basically, we have characters introducing who they are. That is what they want. They have a very, very clear want. We have Rick, who just sticks his neck out for nobody, he wants to be left alone. We have Baxter, who doesn't really kind of know who he is. He's sort of like floating around a little bit. He's not quite sure. Barbie is just stereotypical Barbie and doesn't form causality thoughts. And Paul Hunnam views himself as a rigorous academic. That's who he is, and that's what he wants. He wants to be a rigorous academic. So that's what they want. And now you have to come up with what they need. And if you're doing this correctly, it's really, really important to have a need that is completely opposite to your character's want. Because then right away you have conflict. There's something that they actually need to develop. They need to have happen to them in order to be successful. So Rick needs to not be an isolationist and needs to get in the fight against the Nazis. Baxter, as the movie states in a certain scene, needs to be a mensch. He needs to learn to be a human being and stand up for himself a little bit. Barbie needs to learn that the world is more complicated and that she has a place in that more complicated world. And Paul Hunnam needs to stop viewing his students as antagonists and start viewing them as people. And that is these needs are pretty easy to see from the outset of the movie. We see these characters establishing very clearly what they want, and we can see that the need is something deep inside of them that needs to advance. And the best way to demonstrate your character's want and your character's need is through this role, which is the other important character you should be developing at the same time you're developing your protagonist, and that is the antagonist. You really want to create a protagonist equal to or above your protagonist, because as McKee writes, a protagonist in their story can only be as intellectually fascinating and emotionally compelling as the forces against them. And Truby kind of puts it even better to me. He says, the main opponent is the one person in the world best able to attack the great weakness of the hero, and they should attack it relentlessly. They should endlessly be there. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. When we think of an antagonist, who do you think? Who's the best antagonist in movies? Darth Vader's good. Not what I was thinking, though. That's a good. Who do you? Lex Luthor? Hans. It's very good. I'm getting a lot of good guesses. See, I do this for film students. They don't have so many good answers. That's not who I was thinking of. I was thinking of a character who's appeared in, 6 movies in the last 15 years, probably. Got his own movie recently. Joker. Yeah. I think the Joker is the perfect example of this, especially in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, because the Joker is the polar opposite of Batman. He's colorful, right? Batman wears black or blue and gray. He smiles. Batman never smiles, right? He talks a lot. Batman rarely speaks. His violence is, especially in the Nolan one, random and sort of untargeted. Batman is precise. And actually, in The Dark Knight, it gets even further, really impressively. Like, in The Dark Knight, he has exterior scars. Batman's are all interior. His backstory is amorphous. Everyone knows what happened to Bruce Wayne as a child. His clothes are thrown together and kind of random. Batman has a meticulously designed uniform. And he's really, really good at that one thing that Truby said, which is attacking Batman's weakness and doing it relentlessly. They are competing in The Dark Knight for the same thing. They are competing for, as the Joker says, the soul of Gotham. And that is what the whole situation hinges around. And in The Apartment, Billy Wilder creates a fantastic antagonist for Baxter. It's Mr. Sheldrake, his boss, the guy you saw in the earlier scene. And Mr. Sheldrake is everything that Baxter says he wants to be. He's successful, he gets any woman he wants, whenever he wants to, he does whatever he wants, and he doesn't care about people, right? And therefore demonstrates to Baxter and to us the downside of what Baxter wants. And we really hope that Baxter doesn't end up like him, and that he can move quickly through the world. And also we have the added benefit in the movie of creating a love triangle between our characters, because our protagonist and antagonist are claiming to be in love with the same woman, though only one of them is really in love with her. I'll let you guess which one that is. In Barbie, anyone guess who the antagonist is in Barbie? Will Ferrell? Oh, it's hidden. The corporation, that's what you think, but the corporation actually, well, the corporation's not great, but they're kind of on her side. Yeah, the answer's Ken. Your antagonist can be your friend. It can be your boyfriend. It can be your best friend, right? Ken's journey in the movie is to be Barbie's friend, to try to help her, try to help her, try to help her. And then he's introduced to the patriarchy and he goes nuts. He brings the patriarchy back to Barbie land. He ruins everything. He ruins her want and her need. It's really, really nicely put together. And you also don't see him coming as the bad guy, right? You expect it to be the corporation or somebody in the real world or another Barbie, but no, it's the one closest to you. The call is coming from inside the house. In The Holdovers, the antagonist is this character. His name is Angus Tully. He's one of the kids. And this is why I stopped using the word hero earlier. Because in The Holdovers, one of the most interesting things about the movie to me is that our protagonist is a bad person. He's a teacher who beats up on students, not physically, but like emotionally. Like really abuses his power to get revenge on who he views as rich, entitled students. And some of them clearly are, but not all of them are. And Angus Tully is one of those. And Tully and Hunnam are thrust together very cleverly. First, they're like a group of 6 boys who have to stay for the holidays. And then at one point, they do a very clever thing, and they get rid of all the other boys. They go someplace else, and they're stuck one-on-one with each other. And that's ideal. If you can have your protagonist and your antagonist spend the whole movie with each other, you really, really have some interesting conflict, because they do not and should not get along. And it really is, so that's why, like I say, that's why I stopped using the word hero. Now, Casablanca does takes antagonist to another level and uses something else that you may want to consider when you're designing characters. Because when you're designing characters, how many of you play tabletop role-playing games? Yeah. So you have the alignment chart, right, that you use to pick your characters. There's something very similar that you can use in screenwriting, which is called four-corner opposition. Four-corner opposition is, Truby defines it actually like this. Create great characters. Think of your characters as part of a web, with each helps to define the others. And to put it another way, a character is often defined by who they're not. So here we have Rick, Captain Renault, Victor Laszlo, and Major Strasser. Major Strasser is our big bad. He is our Nazi, and he is a true believer in the Axis cause. You have Victor Laszlo, who's in love with the same woman that Rick is in love with, who is a true believer for the Allies. And then you have up here Captain Renault, who, as he says, will take what comes. So he's on the side of the bad guys as long as that's convenient to him. He's an absolute nihilist, though, at heart. And that's what Rick wants to be. He wants to be a nihilist. He wants to not care. And as the movie goes on, these 3 other characters interact with him in various scenes and are kind of vying for his soul in a way. And what you can really do with four-corner opposition is at the end of the film, Rick doesn't become one of them. He kind of mixes the best of all of them and creates his own path. And that's really what four-corner opposition gives you. Another great movie that you can find a video about this online that does four-corner opposition is Batman Begins. But it's a common one. Once you know it exists and you try to pick out the antagonist of a movie, you can see it's a very, very clever thing to do. So we have our protagonists, we have our antagonists, and then we start to populate the film with colorful characters who sort of both reinforce, and their allies, their enemies, their adversaries that come in from all different kinds of directions. And you really start to see what a colorful world you can populate. You know, you can have Alan if you want to. It's a really, you know, just go nuts on it. And you really want to have, you know, your lead character wants to have a friend that they can talk to. In The Holdovers, that's the role of Mary, the chef, who also provides a lot of other moral guidelines. Rick has a lot of friends who work at the cafe that come around. There's a lot of other Barbies, and America Ferrera and her daughter. And then there's the executives at the company, as well as Fran Kubelik, who he's in love with. All created together, none created in a vacuum, and all really interacting with each other and weaving each other together, which is what I'm going to talk about. Now, if we go back to our Save the Cat chart, we know we have to hit certain points on our journey. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I do want to hit the highlights. And the big one I want to start with, because it's the most important one when you're designing a script, to me, is the concept of act breaks. Now, every screenwriting book defines an act break differently. Some people say there can only be 3 acts. Some people say, no, there can be 8 acts, which is wild if you want to go that way, I guess. But, you know, basically, I adhere to 3-act structure. And I define for myself an act break as the moment your character makes an irrevocable decision directly connected to their want and need. It needs to be created. It needs to be going at both. We need to be heading towards both all the time, either stepping towards one or stepping away from the other. Stepping towards both can also be very possible. In Casablanca, Act 1 ends here. Rick is given the opportunity to help a friend, the friend who was mentioned earlier, and he makes a choice.
Monsieur Ugarte.
La partie continue.
Yes,
Will you please come with us?
certainly.
L'incident est clos, madame.
May I first please kiss my chips?
L'incident est clos, madame. La partie continue. Faites vos jeux, messieurs, mesdames. Marquons les jeux. La partie continue. Les jeux sont faits.
Pretty lucky, huh? 2,000, please. 2,000. Thank you.
Faites vos jeux, messieurs, mesdames. La partie continue. Les jeux sont faits. La partie
Rick! Rick, help me.
Be a fool, you can't get away.
But Rick, hide me. Do something. You must help me, Rick. Do something. Come on. Rick! Rick!
Excellent, Captain.
When they come to get me, Rick, I hope you'll be more of a help.
I'd stick my neck out for nobody.
So there he is again with his clear stated want, right? I stick my neck out for nobody. And yeah, he probably had no chance to help his friend there, but he didn't. And then his friend gets killed, and that's an irrevocable decision if I ever heard one. Barbie's Act 1 has a much more clean ending. Act 1 ends when she decides to leave Barbie Land and head off into the great unknown of the real world. And the Holdovers Act 1 ends in a very interesting moment where two of the boys get in a fight, and Hunnam wants to know who started it, and in order to find out who started it, he sort of psychologically tortures that very scared-looking boy there in the middle into admitting who started the fight, and then bullies that kid into confessing. That kid confesses, and that kid gets bullied later for having ratted the other kids out. So again, your protagonist doesn't need to be a good person. And actually, in an interesting way, just like Rick not being a good person can lead to a much more satisfying result at the end. But act breaks don't need to come with big pink banners or gunfights. They can come with a very, very, very subtle decision, and one that actually may not become, the true ramifications of which may not become clear until later in the film. So this is the end of Act 1 in the apartment.
Hi, buddy boy. Congratulations and all that jazz.
Hi, fellas.
Well, you made it. Just like we promised.
Quite an office. Name in the door, rug on the floor, the whole schmear.
Yeah.
Teamwork, that's what counts in an organization like this. All for one and one for all. Know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a vague idea.
Baxter, we're a little disappointed in you, gratitude-wise.
Oh, I'm very grateful.
Then why are you locking us out all of a sudden?
Well, it's been sort of rough the past few weeks, what with my cold and like that.
We went to bat for you, and now you won't play ball with us.
Well, after all, it's my apartment. It's private property. It's not a public playground.
All right, so you got yourself a girl. That's okay with us, but not every night in the week.
How selfish can you get? Last week, I had to borrow my nephew's car and take Sylvia to a drive-in in Jersey. I'm too old for that sort of thing. I mean, in a Volkswagen.
I sympathize with your problem. Believe me, I'm very sorry.
You'll be a lot sorrier before we're through with you.
Are you threatening me?
Listen, Baxter, we made you, and we can break you.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Sheldrake.
Good morning, gentlemen. Everything satisfactory, Baxter? You like your office?
Yes, sir, and I want to thank you very much.
Oh, don't thank me. Thank your friends here. They're the ones who recommended you. Yes, well, we just dropped by to wish him the best of luck. Well, so long, Baxter. We know you won't let us down.
Yes, so long, fellas. Drop in any time. The door is always open. To my office.
Well, I like the way you handle that, Baxter. How does it feel to be an executive?
Oh, fine.
Sit down.
I want you to know I'll work very hard to justify your confidence.
I'm sure you will. Say, Baxter, about the apartment. Now that you've got a raise, don't you think we can afford a second key?
Well, I guess so.
You know, my secretary, Miss Olson.
Oh, yeah, very attractive. Is she the lucky girl that...
Oh, no. I just meant that she's kind of a busybody. Always sticking her nose in everything. And, well, passing that key back and forth. Why take chances?
Yes, sir, you can't be too careful. Oh, I have something I think belongs to you.
Me?
I mean, the young lady, whoever she may be. It was on my couch when I got back last night.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
The mirror is broken. It was broken when I found it.
Yeah. She threw it at me.
Sir?
Well, you know how it is. Sooner or later, they always give you a bad time.
Oh, I know how it is.
You know, you see a girl a couple of times a week just for laughs, and right away, they think you're going to divorce your wife. Now, I ask you, is that fair?
No, sir, it's very unfair. Especially to your wife.
Yeah. You know, Baxter, I envy you. Bachelor, all the dames you want, no headaches, no complications.
Yes, sir, that's the life, all right.
Oh, put me down for Thursday again.
Roger. And I'll get that other key.
It's also the 60s, so we get a nice fade out here to tell us that the first act is over. They don't do that anymore. Yeah, so Baxter has decided to cut out all his other friends and align himself fully with Mr. Sheldrake, who he does not yet realize is his antagonist, and this decision will have terrible repercussions on him later. Excuse me. So, like I say, they don't have to be huge moments. They can be kind of invisible. They can be kind of woven in. Again, you can add a fade if you want to. Let the audience know where you're at. The next major moment for character development I want to talk about is the midpoint of the film, which really should be called this, the midpoint collision. I really, really think the midpoint is an underrated part of movies. Midpoints can be incredibly effective. About halfway through, your character should really, Snyder talks about setting the clock, people talk about all kinds of little plot devices you should do. But in the midpoint of the movie, to me, to be really, really interesting, you can have your character absolutely faced with a very, very tough decision and then have to make a choice, a very clear choice. And when that happens, we really get, in the best case scenario, we get an excellent view of how the character is. As McKee writes, true character can only be expressed through choice in a dilemma. How a person chooses to act under pressure is who they are, and the greater the pressure, the truer and deeper the choice to the character. These moments can also be incredibly subtle. In Barbie, there's a great moment right at the middle of the film where she gets to Mattel and she's offered the opportunity to get back in the box and go back to Barbie land, and she's told everything will be fine. And this is exactly what she wants. She wants everything to be fine again. But something in her tells her this is a bad decision, and she won't do it. She wants to do it. You can see her want to do it in the scene. It's really, really well acted. But she just is like, no, I'm not gonna do it, and she runs away. And then we have the great chase through Mattel in the middle of the movie, which is excellent. In the midpoint of the apartment, it's a little steeper. Baxter comes back to his apartment after Mr. Sheldrake has mistreated Miss Kubelik yet again, and she has attempted to kill herself in his apartment. And he now suddenly is faced with the real-life repercussions of the thing that he's been trying to keep at arm's length, which is that these people are people, and people's lives are getting kind of abused in his apartment. In The Holdovers, we have a very similar moment of failure. I think failure is really good at the midpoint for the protagonist. Hunnam takes everybody to a holiday party near the school against kind of his better judgment. Things go kind of badly. Mary, our chef character, her son was killed in Vietnam recently, and she has kind of a very sad breakdown quietly at the party, so they decide to leave, and this is what happens.
I was right. This is why I hate parties. That was a disaster. Total disaster.
Speak for yourself. I was having fun. Let's take Mary home, make sure she's okay, and we'll come back.
Out of the question.
Come on, would you give me a break? God, I was hitting it off with Elise.
Oh, God. The niece? Are you kidding me? This poor woman is bereft, and all you can think about is some silly girl.
I don't need you feeling sorry for me.
See? I'm just saying, this was the first good thing that came with being in this prison with you.
Need I remind you that it is not my fault that you are stuck here? Do you think I want to be babysitting you? Oh, no, I was praying to the God I don't even believe in that your mother would pick up the phone or your father would arrive in a helicopter or a submarine or a flying fucking saucer to take you
dead.
I thought your father...
It's just some rich guy my mom married. Give me your keys.
It's unlocked.
You don't tell a boy that's been left behind at Christmas that you're aching to cut him loose, that nobody wants him? What the fuck is wrong with you? Let's go. I'm cold.
So in a moment of true shame, we have at this point in the midpoint of the film, from this moment on out, Hunnam decides that he's going to try to actually create a Christmas for everybody and be a good person, to varying levels of success. It is a comedy. Casablanca also goes, so these are three examples, sort of, two examples in a row of characters sort of failing at the midpoint. Casablanca goes kind of the other way. Casablanca, Rick has been doing a really good job at drinking and being a charming nihilist, and it's all been going very well for him. But at the midpoint of the film, he's confronted with this young lady here. It's been made clear in the movie that Captain Renault, our charming Axis nihilist, sleeps with young ladies to get them exit visas, to get them out of Casablanca. And he has been, probably not for the first time, Rick has been asked to vouch for Captain Renault's goodwill, that if this young lady sleeps with him, she will indeed get an exit visa. And she tells him her sad story, that her husband is there and gambling, trying to win money, and he's losing, and it's not going very well. And something inside of Rick snaps in a very sort of drunken, not drunken, but sort of tipsy moment. He just sort of seems like he's had enough with the way things are going. And so what he does is go into the roulette room and arrange for her husband to win money so that they can pay for the exit visa so that she doesn't have to sleep with Captain Renault. It's a small decision of humanity, I think on a sliding scale, we can all agree. But for Rick, it's a big jump. He's gotten himself involved. And from this moment on out, he kind of won't be able to stop. He really has discovered how good it feels to do the right thing. And he's not going to be able to quit it. He's going to have to keep moving forward. The next moment I want to talk about is the end of Act 2, my favorite moment when writing, which is the all is lost moment. You guys heard about the all is lost moment? This comes up a lot. All is lost is just absolutely the best. It's the moment you have to develop in your screenplay where there is absolutely no way for the character to get what they need. There's absolutely no way. Just never, ever, ever going to happen. And then we spend the last third of the movie getting that and seeing how they do it. And the more insurmountable you can make the all is lost moment, the better the triumph comes when it turns it all the way around. Barbie's all is lost moment comes in an excellent moment of Ken's full emergence with the patriarchy, where they come back to discover that he has turned Barbie Land into Kendom, and it's all horses and patriarchy, and horses and brewski beers, that's what he says. And so Barbie has a moment where she completely just loses it.
No, I didn't wish anything. I've never wanted anything to change.
Oh, honey, that's life. It's all change.
That's terrifying. I don't want that. Not my life. No, thank you. Just, no. I don't want this. I'm just gonna sit here and wait and hope that one of the more leadership-oriented Barbies just snaps out of it, does something about this whole mess.
I really understand this feeling. It's basically like being a human person all the time.
Please, just leave me here. Just leave me go back to your messed up world and just leave me to mine.
So you're just gonna give up?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I almost felt bad for you, but you are exactly what I thought you were. Let's go, honey. Let's just... Wait, how do we even...
Do everything we did in reverse.
Unbelievable. Come on, Mom. She doesn't deserve you.
This is the lowest I've ever been. Emotionally and physically.
Pretty clear statement for all is lost in that. Barbie chooses her want over her need. She needs to stand up and fight back, and she decides not to. She decides to lie down, and there's absolutely no way she's ever going to get up. It's never going to happen. In Casablanca, the all is lost moment comes when we're supposed to think as an audience that Rick has sold out Victor Laszlo to the Nazis and arranged for him to be arrested. Spoiler alert, he hasn't. In The Holdovers, the all is lost moment is actually a really, really kind of interesting moment where Hunnam is confronted he takes Tully to Boston, and they're finally getting along and everything's going really well, and then Tully runs away from him. And Hunnam is given the opportunity to kind of bust him, to really expel him from school and do some terrible things to him, and he's totally justified in doing it. And instead, he takes him to see his father. His father isn't dead, he's been institutionalized. And we now encounter the real benefit of having your protagonist be actually a bad guy, because he gets to have a moment of redemption. And they go see his father, Tully's father. It ends with him looking like this, so it doesn't go great. But it draws the characters closer together, and they all suddenly are on the same page. They're having a really good time. Because Hunnam is the bad guy, quote unquote, of the movie, his all is lost moment can be a victory for the rest of the movie. It's a really, really interesting choice. However, there's still one aspect of his character, so now he views his students as humans. He's grown as a person, but there's still one little moment of his character intact, and that is his desire to be seen as an academic, which will have to be tested later in the movie. In The Apartment, we have my favorite kind of all is lost moment that if you can write an all is lost moment like this, you've really crafted something special. So what has happened, just to catch you up, is that Baxter has spent 2 days in the
Sheldrake's
apartment
office?
with Miss Kubrick.
This is C.C. Baxter. Would you please tell Mr. Sheldrake I'd like to come up and see him? It's rather important. Will you call me back, please?
And he's decided to tell everybody how he feels.
Mr. Sheldrake, I've got good news for you. All your troubles are over. I'm going to take Miss Kubelik off your hands. Plain fact is, I love her. I haven't told her yet. I thought that you should be the first to know. After all, you don't really want her, and I do. And although it may sound presumptuous, she needs somebody like me. So I think it'd be the best thing all around. Solution-wise, yes. Oh, I'll be right up. Mr. Sheldrake, got good news for you. All your troubles are over.
Well, hiya, buddy boy. What happened to you?
Hit by a swinging door. Or maybe a yellow cab.
That guy really must have belted him.
Yeah, he's punchy. Talking to himself.
27.
You see, Mr. Sheldrake, those 2 days she spent in the apartment have made me realize how lonely I'd been before. Thanks to you, I'm in a financial position to marry her. If I can ever square things with her family. Good morning, C.C. Baxter.
Mr. Baxter is here.
Send him in.
Mr. Sheldrake, I've got good news for you.
I've got good news for you, Baxter. All your troubles are over.
Sir?
I know how worried you were about Miss Kubelik. Well, stop worrying. I'm going to take her off your hands.
You're going to take her off my hands?
That's right, Baxter. I've moved out of the house. I'm going to be staying in town at the athletic club.
You left your wife?
Well, if you must know, I fired my secretary. My secretary got to my wife, and my wife fired me. Ain't that a kick in the head?
Yeah.
Now, what's your news, Baxter?
It's about Miss Kubelik. She's feeling all right again, so she went back home.
Swell. And don't think I've forgotten what you did for me. This way, Baxter. Sit down. Try it on for size. You like? It's all yours.
Mine?
My assistant, Roy Thompson, has been shifted to the Denver office, and you're taking his place. What's the matter, Baxter? You don't seem very excited.
Well, it's just that so many things have been happening so fast. I'm very pleased. Especially for Miss Kubelik. Now that I've gotten to know her better, I think she's the kind of girl that definitely ought to be married to someone.
Oh, sure. But first, the property settlement has to be worked out, and then it takes 6 weeks in Reno. Meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy being a bachelor for a while. Oh, by the way, Baxter, you now can have lunch in the executive dining room.
Yes, sir.
That's just one of the privileges that goes with this job. You also get a nice little expense account, use of the executive washroom. So what happened to you, Baxter?
I got kicked in the head, too.
Oh?
He gets what he wants. He gets everything he wants. But it's not what he needs, not even close to what he needs. And it's actually not what he wants anymore. This is an amazing thing to do to a character at the end of Act 2. It's absolutely incredible. Pixar loves to do this. Inside Out does it, Soul does it, Toy Story 3 does it, I think Toy Story 2 does it. It's a really, really good... I don't think Toy Story does it, but a lot of them, I mean, Toy Story 4 might do it, I haven't seen it. But it's a really, really interesting thing to do, to give your character everything that they've asked for from the beginning. And for them to discover, I don't want it anymore. It's a really, really kind of dark and fun moment to put your character in so that they can dig their way out into the finale. The finale is a really, really basic position. You know, need supplants want. The characters are revealed for who they truly are in this circumstance. Rick double-crosses Renault, kills Major Strasser, tells Ilsa to go with her husband, and gives everything up that he wants. He gives everything up that he wants to have what he needs, which is the courage of his convictions and to fight the Nazis. And he's rewarded, because then Captain Renault backs him up. The two of them go off, and everybody's having a good time. Baxter quits his job. He's finally pushed to the edge, and when he and doesn't go get Miss Kubelik. It's a very, very clever thing. He quits his job, and then she finds out he quits his job, and she goes to get him. It's a really, really nice, satisfying conclusion that we have there. Barbie saves Barbie Land from the Kens. and reunites everything the way it's to be. She reconciles with the emotionally damaged Ken, I guess we would call him, and he discovers he's Knuff, and that's good. But then she leaves Barbie Land, a very important moment. The thing she wants is for everything to go back to normal. Everything goes back to normal, but she leaves. She goes out to the real world and decides she's going to be a real person. Now, Hunnam, they really put through the ringer at the end of the movie. He's pretty much okay right up to the end. He's good, he likes his students, everybody's fine. And then he gets called into this meeting with his boss and Tully's mother and stepfather, who have discovered that he went to see his father at this institution in Boston, and they're incredibly upset. And he's faced with a choice. If he tells them the truth, they're going to pull Tully out of school. He's going to go to military academy. This is 1971. That means he's going to go to Vietnam when he graduates from military academy. Or he can do what he does, which is he covers for him and gets fired. And it's a really beautiful moment at the end of this movie where he gives everything up that he ever wanted to do the right thing and faced with an impossible situation. And it's really, really great. It tears the character down to their studs, and we like him so much more at the end of this movie than we do at the beginning. And so, as I hope I've demonstrated, by creating strong protagonists with clear wants and needs, giving them antagonists who are custom-built to attack those needs, and creating secondary and tertiary characters who are various reflections of those wants and needs, and Alan. Screenwriters have crafted great films. They're solid. The stories are solid, but they're solid because they're built on this foundation of tremendously diverse, interesting characters. And they actually have one other thing I mentioned right at the beginning that makes them absolute classics, and that is these movies have some great lines.
I can't fail this class.
Oh, don't sell yourself short, Mr. Coates. I truly believe that you can.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend, boyfriend.
To do what?
I'm actually not sure.
Where we go, my place or yours?
Might as well go to mine. Everybody else does.
And what in heaven's name brought you to Casablanca?
My health. I came to Casablanca for the waters.
The waters? What waters? We're in the desert.
I was misinformed.
You know, Mr. Kuntz, for most people, life is like a henhouse ladder, shitty and short.
Did you bring your rollerblades?
I literally go nowhere without them.
How many drinks did you have? 3. I thought so.
All the gin joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
You know he flourished here.
Yes. No, he was a great kid. I had him one semester. Very insightful.
Mm-hmm. He hated you. He said you were a real asshole.
Well, like I said, sharp kid, insightful.
Do you guys ever think about dying?
They have this talent for falling in love with the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, how many guys were there?
3.
How can he close me up? On what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, this is no longer Barbie's dream house. This shall henceforth be known as Ken's Mojo Dojo Casa House.
You don't have to say dojo and house.
And casa.
But you do because it feels good. Try it.
Mojo, dojo, casa.
Hardy, I have known you since you were a boy. So I think I have the requisite experience and insight to aver that you are and always have been penis cancer in human form.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or anything?
Hi.
Hello.
When it comes to A story and B story, would you say your A story, the want is mostly embedded in the A story? And your B
Yeah,
story is the need?
you want. I think you want it embedded in both probably, but it is more firmly supplanted in the A story than the B story. The B story is usually more of a reflection of need than want, as kind of an example for the A story. But it depends on your genre also. You know, in an action movie, things can get a little muddled in that direction. But in a more like a straighter comedy or straighter drama, yeah, I would say that's absolutely true.
Hi. I was just wondering, in the movie Casablanca, there's the character Elsa.
Yes.
where would she fall in the lines of like that character web?
Yeah, so I mean, Elsa as the love interest, unfortunately, like a lot of female protagonists in the 40s, gets kind of underwritten when you start to value, and she gets kind of moved around between the two main guys, and she sort of ends up waffling. But what she really does is present Rick with a clear example of how hard it is to do the right thing. I think ultimately she becomes an example of his need, because if you haven't seen the movie, she leaves him in the backstory. But she does it for a very, very noble reason, and he can't understand that at the beginning, and he does understand that by the end, that sometimes the right solution is to give up the thing you want more than anything in the world.
How do you translate these sort of narrative structures in non-classical narratives of corporate storytelling, maybe adverts, maybe presentations, keynote talks, things like that? I often struggle with that, and I don't know if you have any insight.
Well, it's actually not that. I think it's the right approach. I think you're coming at it from exactly the right angle. I do a lot of work in it with industrials back in DC. And while that is usually a longer narrative structure, we have a little bit more time. It is, if you watch a really, really good commercial, they do put their character through a journey of a thing that they need, and then they don't have it, and then the product becomes obviously the thing that solves all your problems. But it's the same basic idea. I think if you go, okay, we need to demonstrate that this corporate idea or whatever it is the right solution, that becomes, you just supplant that into the need category, and then plug your character on the same kind of journey. You still want to hit the high points. You want to hit, you have to introduce everything. You need an inciting incident, and then you need an all is lost moment. And as you guys know, you've made 48-hour movies, and you've obviously done it very well. If you have those two things, everything else kind of will fall away when you have only 7 minutes or 30 seconds to tell a story. Introduce the idea as fast as you can. Introduce what they're missing, and then how the product or the corporate idea, whatever it is, becomes the solution. Yeah, it still applies in that sense.
Thank you for the presentation. And as you speak, I was thinking, how can I plug that into less narrative cinema, more poetic cinema, different types of cinema that Hollywood classic?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think to Dostoevsky, declination of characters around the main thema of the plot. Is this something you can do with this kind of tools?
I think this is a really for non-linear or non-conventional storytelling. I think what actually this comes into a handy guidepost for you is, what does the audience expect? What does the audience want? Like, because you can't really break the rules until you understand them. You can't. So if you can play with audience assumptions really well if you understand like what the audience wants out of it. And this is basically how mainly Western audiences have been trained to watch movies. So if you know those guideposts, you can really fuck with people pretty well. Like, not to put too fine a point on it, but you can, like, when you get kind of off the beaten path, if you know what you're supposed to do next, and then you go somewhere else, you're like, oh, my audience will follow me, or they won't, depends on what you want, obviously. But it's through the guideposts that you can kind of get there, I think.
This is more out of just curiosity's sake, but of the 4 movies you showed us and those character arcs, which one is your favorite?
The Apartment.
Okay, and because I was gonna say same, and why is that? Like, why does that one hit so much harder than others for you? Like, what about it is so captivating?
So I'm a writer, mainly, and that's how I view things. I appreciate a really well-written screenplay. I have only scratched the surface of why The Apartment is an amazing movie. That broken mirror, if you've seen it, will devastate you later in the movie. I'm not going to ruin why. It is like the way The Apartment is put together like a watch. There's not an extraneous character, there's not an extraneous beat. Every piece of information is important, and at the same time, it's a lot of fun. And that, to me, is the real challenge. It has a profound message about the human circumstance in an incredibly small package, which I think comedies do very, very well. It's very low concept, which I appreciate. It's gorgeously photographed. But it's really the fact that there's not an extraneous word in that screenplay. It is so well put together, and that's so hard to achieve.
So I had a question kind of regarding stuff that were like at the end of the film. So like, I'm a big fan of like Shakespeare and stuff. So like, I think a good example of what I'm talking about is like Romeo and Juliet, where you have a tragedy where it's like at the end you have sort of like that damned romance that's like never gonna happen. The characters at the end don't really get any resolution. It seems like their needs or wants aren't met because they're both dead. So how do you think that...
Spoiler alert for Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, right. So how do you think like the stuff you kind of explained today, how does that fit in something where, as a writer, you know going into it that the ending is gonna suck for the characters and they're not gonna get what they want?
Well, I would say that in Romeo and Juliet especially, like the characters kind of do get what they need in a weird and twisted way. It's the world that's screwed up for them. And then that becomes what the final scene of the play is about, is that this world is bad. Like this world that you people have created is terrible, and look how you created destroyed the thing that you claim to love. So then the audience takes that kind of out. The characters are dead, like you point. They get no growth. But I think in that case, you need to be doing a movie that has a larger point to it, like a larger. Well, like so, a good example that popped into my head to say, like Mad Max Fury Road. It has an ending where for Mad Max, he leaves. He walks away at the end of the movie, and it's just sort of like he's kind of grown as a person, but he's not going to find the community that he kind of needs at this point. So he gets kind of half of what we want him to get, but more than that, he gets what he needs. He's taken a chance on somebody, and it paid off, and so now he can go on his journey and do it. So I think it's just you need to make sure that your theme is solid and that somebody gets something positive out of the movie. We're not Bergman here, most of us we can have something happy.
About the rewriting process, like how do you practically use this? Because I'm thinking about a feature, you know? So probably you have a first draft, right? You have ideas, atmosphere, some characters, and then you have, this whole structure. So yeah, I'm interested in that. Like, do you have system, let's say,
Yes.
storyboard, or like notes, or what would you do
I'm a
with
big
that?
outliner. I outline when I write plays or when I write screenplays. I outline endlessly, and I kind of outline until I can't outline anymore, until like the outline won't sustain, like it's becoming a script. And then because my favorite thing to do in the world is write dialogue, so I hold that to the very, very end. I kind of save that little bit. For rewriting, though, I find it to be a savior. First drafts of everything to me are kind of proof of concept. It's like, I'm not going to show this to anybody, probably. This is just like, this hits the beats I want it to hit. This character does the thing I want it to do. Is this a story? And then I go, okay, it is. Now I'm going to go through it and really start to pick it apart and say, does this scene actually do the thing it's supposed to do? Or like, is my outline flawed? Do I need to go back and because this side of the journey is working? But it's always the outline, which is based on like that chart I showed you. That's usually how I outline. Is my savior. It's my root. It's how I know that as long as I'm hitting these points, I can get to them by the most creative way possible. So yeah, I'm always looking. When I do rewrites, I go back to my outline and be like, what did I want to do when I was? Oh right, that's what I intended to do originally. Screwed that up. Okay, let me back that up and try it again. Or that's what I wanted to do. That was a terrible idea. Now that I've read it, it has to go someplace else. I'm a big fan of draft 1 and draft 1A. Like, write the first draft, read the first draft, rewrite the first draft, then show it to somebody. I think our big problem, one of the big problems writers have, writing is rewriting. It's a cliche, but it's absolutely true. And I think that a lot of us, when we send our draft to somebody, want them to be like, this is brilliant, don't touch a word. It has never happened to me in my entire life, and it never will, but I want it to desperately. But it's the hard thing of you're so happy with that draft you show to somebody, you have to be showing it to people who know kindly, this is great, honey, nicely done. Now, let's get to work. And that's what it's for. That's why we have collaborators. That's why we do a lot of work. And that's especially true when I do theater. I'm rewriting in the room, in the rehearsal room with people all the time. And you just have to be rewriting constantly.